Imagine a time when an empire spanned the globe, and right at its heart was this young queen. But her path to the throne, it was incredibly improbable. And her personal life was just, well, packed with challenges.
It really was. It's such a defining period, not just for Britain, but, the world, full of twists and turns you almost couldn't make up.
Exactly. And for those of you fascinated by royal history, you probably know Queen Victoria's reign was transformative. But today, we're really going deep, aren't we? We want to understand how someone born, what, fifth in line?
Fifth, yeah, a distant fifth.
How she not only defied these huge odds, but navigated, well, intense family stuff, political games, and ended up shaping, really, an entire world. So our mission here is to pull out the key nuggets from the sources we've looked at, giving you a shortcut to being properly informed about this amazing time. Lots of surprising facts and hopefully some aha moments.
And to get that, you have to start right at the beginning. Her very unlikely path to the throne. Like you said, born fifth in line, her father was King George III's fourth son.
Fourth son. And George III had 15 children.
15. So yeah, the odds are long. But then this series of unexpected events just happened, almost like dominoes falling, clearing her path.
And a big part of that path clearing involved wire changes in society, right? After the Industrial Revolution, Britain's population exploded. New social classes emerged, especially this powerful middle class.
Right.
And they seemed to create this really rigid moral code. Purity, self-control, especially around sex. How did that actually affect the royal family?
Well, that moral code, it had this really surprising side effect on the succession. A lot of Victoria's royal uncles, well, let's just say they didn't quite live up to these new strict standards. They had mistresses, illegitimate children, and under the succession rules, those children couldn't inherit the throne. They just weren't recognized.
Yeah.
So the line of eligible heirs started thinning out, partly because of these societal pressures.
Right, so it wasn't just random chance. And then came this series of, well, quite tragic losses that pushed Victoria forward. Her father died when she was just, what, 8 months old?
Just a baby, yeah, 8 months. That moved her up the line. Then, only 6 days later, her grandfather, King George III, also died.
Wow, 6 days.
Yeah. So the throne passed to her uncles. First King George I. He'd been the Prince Regent while his father was ill, and then King William I.
Okay, so the path is clearing, and this is when her mother and this guy, Sir John Conroy, step in.
Exactly. Her German mother and Conroy, her controller, basically the manager of her household, they saw this opening, and they imposed what's called the Kensington system.
Right, I've heard of that. Super strict.
Incredibly strict.
Right.
Very isolated upbringing in Kensington Palace, homeschooled for hours every day, 6 or 7 hours. Little entertainment, basically no friends her own age. She even had to sleep in her mother's room until she was queen.
Seriously? Even as a teenager?
Yep. Her diaries are quite clear about it. She described her childhood as not a happy one. Pretty bleak.
And wasn't there some story about a prophecy around her birth?
Oh yeah, that's a curious one. Apparently, a gypsy fortune teller told her mother the child she was carrying would become a great English monarch. And that's supposedly why her parents rushed back to England for the birth.
Huh. And even her naming was dramatic.
It was. At the christening, her uncle, King George IV, he insisted on the name Alexandrina. Her mother wanted Victoria, after herself. Apparently her mother cried, and only then did the king reluctantly agree to add Victoria as a second name.
Wow. Okay, so fast forward a bit. She's 11, and suddenly she's first in line.
That's right. And King William IV, who's now king, he's 65, no legitimate kids of his own, he openly says he plans to live until Victoria turns 18.
Why? Just to spite her mother?
Pretty much. He apparently couldn't stand Victoria's mother or Conroy. He specifically wanted to prevent them becoming regents if he died before Victoria was legally an adult. He made no secret of it.
And he did it. He lived just long enough.
He did. Died just 1 month after her 18th birthday. So Victoria became queen, no regency needed. And her first night, she really laid down the law.
Oh, so.
Well, first, she refused to sleep in her mother's room anymore. Big symbolic break from the Kensington system. And then, even more pointedly, she told her mother to tell Sir John Conroy he was fired. Done. Out.
Wow, day one.
Day one. And she decided she'd be known simply as Queen's Victoria, not Alexandrina Victoria, just Victoria. A very decisive start.
So she's queen at 18. That must have been daunting. Did people take her seriously?
Well, there was definitely skepticism. She was young, inexperienced, vulnerable, really, to political manipulation.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? There was a big scandal early on.
Oh, yes. The Lady Flora Hastings affair. Huge scandal. Lady Flora was one of her mother's ladies-in-waiting.
Wow.
She was accused of being pregnant.
Which in that era, for an unmarried aristocratic woman...
Was disastrous. A massive scandal.
Yeah.
Victoria, trusting her advisors, including her doctor, Sir James Clark, actually ordered a medical exam.
Oh, dear. How did that go?
Terribly. The diagnosis was completely wrong. Lady Flora wasn't pregnant at all. She had a severe liver tumor. And tragically, the stress and the illness, it killed her.
Oh, no.
And the public turned on Victoria fast. They'd loved their young queen, but now they blamed her for Flora's death. Her popularity just plummeted. People were apparently booing her in public.
Yikes. And that led to another crisis, the bedchamber crisis.
That's right. Her popularity was low, and then Lord Melbourne's Whig government fell. The incoming prime minister was Sir Robert Peel, a Tory, the other main party. Peel asked Victoria to replace some of her ladies-in-waiting. At the time, they were all wives or daughters of Whig politicians. Peel wanted some Tory ladies in there, for political balance in the household, to ensure neutrality.
Seems reasonable, maybe. But she refused.
She absolutely refused. She saw it as a personal attack on her friends, her staff, and probably also as a way to keep Lord M, her Whig advisor, close. So Peel resigned. Melbourne came back temporarily.
But the damage was done.
Yeah, it really hurt her image further. Sources say it turned her flower into a withered one. She was really unpopular at this point.
So popularity nosediving. What's the solution? Marriage.
Exactly. Her uncle Leopold, he was king of Belgium by now, and Lord Melbourne both saw it. She needed to marry. A suitable husband could help stabilize things, improve her image.
And Prince Albert enters the picture.
She actually met her cousin, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, before, and quite liked him. He was German, from a pretty small state, but he was smart, charming, ticked a lot of boxes.
But there's some background stuff with Albert, too, wasn't there? Some rumors?
There were whispers that he might have been illegitimate. And one piece of sort of circumstantial evidence people pointed to was that he didn't have hemophilia.
The bleeding disease.
Right. It ran in other branches of his family. His older brother had it, his uncle too. But Albert didn't. Lord M, who initially wasn't keen on another German influence, apparently noted this lack of hemophilia as a quiet, advantage.
Interesting. So Victoria decides she wants to marry him, and she proposes.
She does. As the monarch, she had to be the one to propose, a real reversal of the usual roles. He accepted, went back to Germany for a few months to get ready, then came back to England for the wedding.
And the wedding itself set a trend, didn't it?
A massive one. Victoria chose to wear a white satin dress. Up until then, royal brides usually wore rich colors, silver, gold embroidery, very elaborate. Her choice for simple white satin, it just took off. That's basically why brides wear white today, all thanks to Victoria.
Wow. Okay, so they're married, and there's that story about the honeymoon, confirming the hemophilia thing.
Yeah, apparently on their honeymoon at Windsor, she saw Albert shaving, which, she wouldn't have seen much growing up without a father figure around.
Right.
He cut himself slightly, and she noticed the bleeding stopped quickly, and that confirmed it for her. He wasn't a hemophiliac. A huge relief, you can imagine.
Definitely. And then came the children. Lots of children.
9 children in 17 years. They really established this image of the large, happy, respectable royal family. It connected with that middle-class ideal that was becoming so important.
But there was a hidden downside to that, wasn't there? The hemophilia gene again.
Yes. Victoria herself, unknowingly, was a carrier. She passed the gene to 3 of her 9 children. One son, Leopold, died from it. 2 daughters became carriers.
And one of those daughters?
Princess Alex, yeah. She married Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. Their son, Alexei, the heir, suffered terribly from hemophilia. It made the family vulnerable, led to figures like Rasputin gaining influence. It had massive historical consequences, all tracing back to Victoria.
Incredible. So Albert's married to the Queen, but initially he didn't have much power, did he?
No, not really. Parliament didn't give him an official title, not even a seat in the House of Lords. He apparently felt frustrated, like just a baby producer, was the phrase used.
A bit sidelined.
Very. But then Victoria suffered from postpartum depression after several of her pregnancies, and Albert started quietly stepping in, helping her with state papers, especially foreign affairs. He proved very capable.
So he starts gaining influence, and then he tackles the household management?
Yes. He discovered the royal palaces were, frankly, a mess. Incredibly wasteful, like leaving candles burning all night everywhere. And the security was a joke.
This is the Boy Jones story.
That's the one. This kid, Edward Jones, managed to sneak into Buckingham Palace multiple times. Once he was found hiding under a sofa. Another time, apparently stole some of the queen's underwear.
No way.
Yeah. And another time, they found him literally asleep on a sofa in the throne room. It just showed how chaotic things were. Reform was desperately needed.
So Albert sees the chaos, and he blames Latson, Victoria's old governess.
He did. Baroness Latson was still managing the household, and Albert became convinced she was the source of the mismanagement, but also that she was subtly turning Victoria against him, feeding old resentments.
Like the ones against her mother and Conroy.
Exactly. Albert skillfully kind of maneuvered things. So Victoria realized Latson was maybe jealous of his influence and wasn't helping their marriage. Eventually, Latson was retired, basically sent back to Germany.
And with her gone?
Albert took charge. He completely reorganized the royal household, cut costs drastically, brought in proper systems, order. It was so effective, it really impressed Parliament.
And that's when he gets his title.
Yes. Eventually, they granted him the title Prince Consort. He got his seat in the House of Lords. He and Victoria became this real power couple, a proper partnership, made the monarchy seem much more modern, efficient.
And they developed those famous homes together, Osborne and Balmoral.
They did. Osborne House on the Isle of Wight, their seaside escape, and Balmoral Castle up in Scotland, their Highland retreat. Both became really beloved royal residences, places they shaped together, still used today.
And Albert brought the Christmas tree tradition over.
He did. It was a German tradition, of course. But Albert really popularized it in Britain. Having a decorated tree in the palace, illustrated in newspapers, suddenly everyone wanted one. It transformed Christmas from mostly a religious festival into the big family celebration with trees and gifts that we know now. Huge cultural impact.
So the monarchy's looking more stable, more modern. Then 1848 happens, revolutions across Europe.
Right. A massive year of upheaval. Kings toppled, republics declared. But Britain, with its constitutional monarchy, largely avoided that kind of violent revolution. There were definitely calls for reform, the Chartist movement, and so on, but the system held. Victoria and Albert worked hard to keep the monarchy popular, connected.
And Albert was really concerned about social issues, too, wasn't he? The slums.
Deeply concerned. He was apparently horrified by the conditions in London slums. There are places called rent-a-rope facilities.
Rent-a-rope? What's that?
Literally, poor laborers would pay a small fee to lean against a rope strung across a room to sleep standing up because they couldn't afford a bed.
Oh, my God. That's grim.
Incredibly grim. And Albert saw this, and he really championed things like the Elementary Education Act, trying to get child laborers out of factories and into schools, setting a precedent for public education, really.
And his other big project was the Great Exhibition.
The Great Exhibition of 1851, his grand vision, a massive showcase of British industry, technology, innovation from all over the empire.
But Parliament wasn't keen at first.
No, they balked at the cost. Thought it was too expensive, too risky. But Victoria believed in it, and in Albert. She personally chipped in £2,000, which was a lot of money then. That encouraged others, and it got funded.
And it was held in the Crystal Palace.
Yes, this incredible, innovative structure made of iron and glass, built right in Hyde Park, designed specifically so they wouldn't have to cut down the existing trees. It was a sensation. 6 million people visited over 5 months. It really cemented Britain's image as the workshop of the world and inspired all the world fairs that followed.
A real triumph for Albert. But then came 1861, a terrible year for Victoria.
Her annus horribilis, her horrible year, just devastating. First, her mother died. And going through her mother's things, Victoria found letters, diaries, evidence of how much her mother actually loved her, how the strictness of the Kensington system came from a place of, well, misguided care.
Oh, wow. After all those years of resentment.
Exactly. It brought this wave of grief and regret for Victoria.
Heartbreak came.
And then soon after, Albert himself fell ill. Typhoid fever.
Right. And even while he was sick, he was still working.
He was, right near the end. 2 major things happened. Their son Bertie, the future Edward VII, was getting into trouble at university. Some scandal. Albert had to deal with that fallout.
Stressful.
And then, even more critically, there was the Trent affair during the American Civil War. A British ship had stopped an American one and taken Confederate diplomats. Lord Palmerston, the Prime Minister, drafted this really aggressive diplomatic note to the U.S.
Threatening war.
He was heading that way. Albert, despite being really weak, read the draft and revised it. Toned down the language, made it more conciliatory. He basically prevented a war between Britain and the U.S.
Incredible, but the effort.
It was too much. He collapsed shortly after and died a few days later. He was only 42.
Just devastating for Victoria.
Completely. She was shattered, and that's when she started wearing black.
What?
All the time, for the rest of her life. over 40 years.
And that set another trend, didn't it? The mourning fashion.
It did. Public mourning became quite elaborate in the Victorian era anyway. Mortality rates were high. But the Queen, wearing black constantly, really solidified it. It actually fueled a whole death industry. Black fabrics, funeral services, mourning jewelry.
And she withdrew from public life, the widow of Windsor.
For about 13 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She retreated, mostly to Windsor, Osborne, Balmoral. Rarely appeared in public. Communicated with her government only through the official dispatch boxes, the box.
13 years is a long time. Did people get impatient?
They did. Public discontent grew. There were even satirical signs put up outside Buckingham Palace saying things like, "This house is to let or for sale," because the monarch was never there. It showed how much the public role of the monarchy mattered.
So what brought her back?
It was gradual. Prince Bertie recovered from his own bout of typhoid, the same illness that killed Albert, and there was a big public Thanksgiving service at St. Paul's Cathedral, which she attended. That helped.
But wasn't it Disraeli who really pulled her back in?
Ah, Benjamin Disraeli, yes.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister. He was very clever. He understood Victoria, flattered her, appealed to her sense of duty and her fascination with the empire, especially India.
The jewel in the crown.
Exactly. And in 1876, Disraeli had Parliament bestow the title Empress of India on her. It was a masterstroke. It really engaged her again, drew her back into more regular public duties.
And this era, her later reign, really saw the peak of the British Empire, right? The sun never sets.
Absolutely. From Canada across to India, Australia, New Zealand, huge parts of Africa, the sheer scale was unprecedented. It meant literally that somewhere in the British Empire, the sun was always shining.
And you can still see the crisis today.
Oh, definitely. Street names, buildings, monuments in cities all over the world, Melbourne, Hong Kong, Victoria Falls. The Victorian influence is still visible. It was built on earlier naval power and the legacy of things like the East India Company.
And in her later years after Albert, she found companionship with other men. Not romantically necessarily, but close confidants.
Yes, two notable figures. First, John Brown, her Scottish gillie, basically a servant or attendant at Balmoral.
Right, the Mrs. Brown rumors.
Exactly. He was very down to earth, gruff, spoke his mind to her, which nobody else dared to do, but fiercely loyal. They had this incredibly close, though debated, relationship. Some even speculated they secretly married. He seemed to be able to pull her out of her grief when others couldn't.
And the second one was later, Abdul Karim.
Yes, Abdul Karim, an Indian servant who arrived to help serve at her Golden Jubilee. He became incredibly close to her in her final years. Taught her Urdu, became her munshi, or teacher, almost like a surrogate son.
That's the relationship in the film Victoria and Abdul.
That's the one. It caused quite a stir in the royal household, but Victoria protected him fiercely.
And she also became known as the grandmother of Europe.
Yes. Through her 9 children and eventually 42 grandchildren, she was related to basically every royal house in Europe. Germany, Russia, Spain, Sweden, Norway, Greece, Romania. They all had links back to Victoria. Created this incredibly complex web of family ties across the continent.
And that connection even reached Thailand.
It did. King Rama VI of Siam, as it was then, visited Victoria during her Golden Jubilee. Stayed at Buckingham Palace, exchanged gifts.
And there was that other story about Rama VI.
Oh, right. When King Rama VI was still Prince Vajiravad, he and his brother Prince Apakara visited. Victoria, apparently quite interested in royal bloodlines and, well, good breeding, abruptly summoned them. She basically just wanted to check they were healthy. Asked them direct questions to see if Siamese royals had the same hereditary issues as some European ones. Quite blunt.
Wow. So nearing the end of her life.
Yeah. In her later years, she suffered badly from rheumatoid arthritis. Made it very hard for her to get around. She eventually passed away at Osborne House, her seaside home, on January 22, 1901. She was 81.
Holding a crucifix, apparently.
Yes, holding a crucifix. And her last whispered words were reportedly, "Oh, Albert."
A very long reign.
The longest in British history, up to that point 63 years and 7 months. Only surpassed later by Queen Elizabeth II. And her name, of course, defined the whole period. The Victorian era, a time of just incredible change and flourishing in arts, science, literature, industry, architecture, everything.
It's almost too much to grasp, the sheer scale of change during her reign.
It really is. Maybe a way to think about it. Imagine if they'd done an Olympic opening ceremony, say for the 1908 London Games, but really themed it around the Victorian era that had just ended, like that amazing 2012 ceremony, but Victorian style.
Okay, I like that. What would we see?
Well, you'd have to start with the Industrial Revolution, right? Huge scenes of factories, steel production, Maybe chimneys rising, then the railways bursting onto the scene,
Yeah.
trains steaming into a representation of Big Ben.
Yeah, okay. Then the empire.
Definitely. Maybe glimpses of conflicts like the Crimean War or the Boer War.
Yeah.
But also the connections, the telegraph wires spreading out, those iconic red hexagonal post boxes appearing everywhere. Maybe even soldiers receiving the first Christmas chocolate bars she sent out. And you'd have to have Lord Baden-Powell starting the Boy Scouts.
What about the social changes?
You'd show the shift. Start with those grim images of London slums, the rent-a-rope places maybe, then transform it into children in neat school uniforms, representing the impact of Albert's education reforms.
And the explosion of ideas.
Oh, absolutely. You'd need figures like Charles Darwin, maybe Alexander Graham Bell with his telephone, Michael Faraday demonstrating electricity, and literature. Scenes from Dickens' Oliver Twist, maybe Oscar Wilde trading witty remarks.
Fashion would have to be in there.
For sure.
Oh.
A parade of white wedding dresses showing the trend she started, contrasted with the somber black mourning outfits she also popularized.
And sports.
Yes. The beginnings of modern football, lawn tennis being played on manicured lawns, all originated or codified then.
How would you end it? Transport again.
Yeah, maybe see the train transform into the London Underground, the tube carrying athletes, and perhaps the final torchbearers arriving on those early bicycles, the penny farthings maybe.
And you'd need Florence Nightingale, too.
Yeah.
Right. Not royalty, but so important.
Crucial. Showing her defying expectations for women, establishing nursing, inspiring whole generations of women to seek careers beyond the home. It really paints a picture of this incredibly dynamic, complex, world-changing era.
Wow. So we've just taken quite the whirlwind deep dive into Queen Victoria's reign. We've uncovered how, personal struggles, political challenges, deep love, how it all shaped not just her, but an entire empire.
It's so much more than just dates and facts. Setting fashion trends, battling scandals, the weight of grief. Her story is incredibly complex, incredibly human.
So if this has sparked your curiosity, and we hope it has, definitely explore more. You could watch that film, Victoria and Abdul, or read up on Prince Albert. He's fascinating in his own right. Or just dig deeper into the British Empire's impact, for good and ill.
Lots to explore.
Definitely. So here's a final thought to leave you with. Just think about how much of our modern world, maybe in ways we don't even realize, from our daily habits to global politics, still carries that invisible but really powerful mark of the Victorian era.